Clark drops a franchise record 45. Next game, Mitchell hangs 33 and drags Indiana back from down 20 against New York. Pick your poison. The Fever finally made opponents choose. If you're just joining us, Indiana's consistency test has been pretty simple. Can this surge hold when it's not just Clark's gravity? Lately, we've been on the Mitchell, Boston, Cunningham scoring balance, the Valkyries' loss that brought back questions about who gets the ball late, and Cynthia Cooper's warning that this team has to sort out its crunch time hierarchy before the second half of the season hardens.
This is the Indiana Fever Daily. Today, 2 franchise-level nights from 2 different players, what Stephanie White actually said about Clark, and whether any of it holds up against a real playoff defense. Sarah, box score first.
From Indiana Fever.
Indianapolis, July 18th, 2026. The Indiana Fever, 16-10, earned their second consecutive win in as many days, defeating the New York Liberty 108-88 to close out a home back-to-back. Kelsey Mitchell led the way with her 4th 30-plus point scoring game of the season, helping the team turn a double-digit deficit into a 20-point victory.
Kelsey Mitchell, 33 points, and Indiana turns a 13-point hole into a 108-88 win over the Liberty. That's a carry job.
The number I keep circling is that third quarter. 30-12, with a 16-2 run tucked inside it. One hot shooter doesn't explain that. Indiana defended long enough to flip the whole game.
And that's the consistency test we've been chewing on. Mitchell's 33, plus that third quarter, turned a double-digit hole into a rout. We asked for proof, and it showed up on the scoreboard.
4th 30-plus game of the season for Mitchell, per the Fever. So when we ask who's got the late-game hierarchy, she keeps raising her hand. And now against a top-tier opponent, not a soft night. From Anthony Miller at Heavy.com.
Clark finished the game with 17 points, 7 assists, 2 rebounds, and 7 turnovers. But the shooting was a problem for her for the 3rd time in the last 4 matchups.
Stephanie White actually went on the record about Clark, and this is the part I care about. 17 points, 7 turnovers, 5 of 14 shooting on national TV, and White points straight to the back-to-back. First time Clark's played on consecutive days in 2 years.
And honestly, that's the read. It's the 3rd rough shooting night in 4 games. But the assist number stayed at 7, and Indiana still won by 20. The coach is telling you the shot chart isn't the whole story.
And that's the update I wanted all week, Sarah. We've been rolling our eyes at probable paperwork for days. This is the coach putting an actual explanation on the record instead of just giving us a status tag.
Right, and White managing a body coming off a franchise record 45 the night before is a different conversation than injury bookkeeping. Now we find out whether that back-to-back strain was a one-off or something they have to schedule around while they're fighting for playoff position. Bleacher Report's Julia Stumbaugh is tracking this.
45 points, a franchise record, and she entered this stretch on a 20-8 pace nobody's ever sustained over a full WNBA season, per Bleacher Report.
And the part that sticks with me, this came on a managed schedule. We spent a chunk of this week rolling our eyes at the probable tag. She answered it with the biggest game of her career.
Yeah, so much for the paperwork. You put quad and back on the injury report and then drop a franchise record. Stephanie White's assessment after that hits different than any status designation.
Right, but let's be clean about what 45 proves and what it doesn't. It shows the ceiling. It doesn't answer the sustainability piece. And that's what I want to keep an eye on as playoff positioning gets tighter.
After Clark drops a franchise record 45, and Mitchell turns around and carries Indiana past New York on her own, are defenses really stuck in a pick-your-poison problem? Or does that equation break once you get into true playoff-style schemes?
It is a real problem, and the numbers are why. Indiana is 4-0 this season in games Clark doesn't play, per Sporting News. That tells you Mitchell and the supporting cast can hold serve even when the defense gets to cross the primary threat off the board. Mitchell had a game-high 29 in that 92-89 road steal at Phoenix, with Clark out entirely. Then when Clark is on the floor, she can go for 45 in one night. That's the kind of number that changes every possession. And remember SI's offseason point. Indiana is the only team in the league with 2 all-WNBA players, Clark and Aaliyah Boston, locked in together on rookie-scale contracts. Add Mitchell as a third all-star, and the Fever suddenly have counters in multiple spots. So yeah, the pick-your-poison framing holds. Mitchell has already shown she can be the primary option and win, so throwing extra bodies at Clark in a playoff series comes with a measurable cost.
But doesn't the injury picture complicate it? We've seen games where one of the 3 is out, and Indiana suddenly looks like a completely different team.
It does, and Boston is where it gets tricky. High Post Hoops broke down those back-to-back games pretty clearly. The Fever can survive and even win without Clark, but they have a much harder time compensating when Boston is out. So the 3-star setup does have a hierarchy. For the playoff push, it comes down to health and depth. If all 3 are available and locked in, the pick-your-poison problem is real. If one piece is missing, opponents have a much clearer blueprint for tilting the floor back their way.
If you like a daily rhythm for your sports fix, check out World Cup Morning, a 2026 FIFA World Cup daily recap with results, standings, storylines, and the arguments you'll have all day. Find it wherever you listen to podcasts. You'll find links to every story we talk through today in the show notes. So if something caught your ear, that's the place to dig in a little more. That's it for Indiana Fever Daily Podcast today. This is a Lantern podcast.